Well, right now, I am in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and for any history enthusiast, this has to be a top 5 destination, in my opinion, in the United States. Now, the first time I came to Gettysburg, I'll admit, I was completely lost. I just kind of wandered around here and kind of hit a site here and hit a site there, but really didn't do it justice. So I thought that maybe it would be helpful to create a little bit of a guide on what to do if you have 3 days in Gettysburg. All right, now if you're going to come to Gettysburg and spend 3 days, well, for me personally, I would spend my first day really where the first day of the battle was fought. Well, right now I'm standing in front of the Seminary Ridge Museum. So for me personally, I recommend people come here first, because here at the Seminary Ridge Museum, you're going to get a really good overview of the Battle of Gettysburg, and it's going to help you out with the rest of your visit. Now, there was a movie about the Battle of Gettysburg that was released in 1993, and I can't think of anybody better to bring in to talk about that than this guy right here. This is Jared Frederick with the YouTube channel Real History.
By the time the Battle of Gettysburg happened in 1863, the Lutheran Theological Seminary, the oldest Lutheran seminary in the country, was already a well-established fixture here in the community. It had existed here for over 3 decades by that point, and there was no sign of it slowing down. It was a growing institution. There were about 24 students that were located here. But for those students and so many other members of the community, their lives would dramatically change on July 1st, 1863. By the end of the first day of fighting, a lot of which culminates right here on this property, there will be some 50,000 soldiers engaged in this struggle on July 1st, and nearly 1 out of every 3 of them will become a casualty. Like so many other large structures here in and around Gettysburg, this place will be converted into a mass hospital. And there will be somewhere around 700 people of both sides who are treated at this facility. And some of them will remain here through September of 1863. After the war, it continues to be used for its theological purposes. By the time of the 1950s, though, it was in a rather dilapidated state, and it was essentially condemned and nearly demolished. But thankfully, the Adams County Historical Society intervened. They made it their headquarters in subsequent years, and up until the 2010s, this was the home of the Adams County Historical Society before it moved to its new facility, which has also been featured here on the History Underground. There is some Hollywood history associated with this place as well. One of the things that I truly love about the movie Gettysburg, and we've done a multi-part in-depth study on that movie on our channel, Real History, but what I really enjoy about it is that so much of the movie was filmed on location. Pretty much every shot of it was filmed right here in Adams County, Pennsylvania. And wherever possible, the filmmakers would go to the spots where these things actually transpired. Many of the shots that you see in the movie were filmed several miles west of town. The Lutheran Theological Seminary was partially recreated for some of the wider shots where there are battle scenes happening in the background. But for some of the tighter, closer, more intimate shots, actor Sam Elliott trekked these grounds. And for one scene or two, he is actually standing up in the cupola of the Lutheran Seminary. Now, the cupola itself is not original to the one that was here at the time of the battle. It was struck by lightning decades after the war. But everything else that you see here is largely as it was, as far as its exterior appearance is concerned. The parking lot that we are now standing here was not here in the summer of 1992 when they were filming it, but actor John Rothman, who portrays John F. Reynolds, he comes up the lawn right behind me. He yells up to Sam Elliott, "What goes, John?" And Buford, played by Sam Elliott, very famously replies, "There's the devil to pay." And all things considered, the movie does a pretty good job. It takes a number of different sources from different accounts and it blends them together. And it's that scene shot here on the real location that sets the stage for both the broader narrative of the film and in real life, the bigger battle to come.
All right, so day one, I'd be starting off right here at the Seminary Ridge Museum, and you can actually go up into the cupola, which is a really neat experience. So you get a little bit of Civil War history, you also get a little bit of Hollywood history while you're here. All right, we're gonna move and I'm gonna show you some other things that I'd be doing on day one here. Now, after your visit to the Seminary Ridge Museum up here, I'm going to recommend that you come just down the street and visit this place right here. What we are looking at is the home that served as General Lee's headquarters during the Battle of Gettysburg. And the story of this place, both in the past and in modern times, is really incredible. The American Battlefield Trust did an incredible work here to restore this home back to its original configuration. Past visitors to Gettysburg may have remembered that at one time there was a hotel right here. Well, the hotel owner ended up working with the American Battlefield Trust and sold it to them, and then they restored it back to what we see today. But anyway, definitely come down here after your visit to the Seminary Ridge. By the time you've been through the Seminary Ridge Museum, you're probably going to be ready to get out on the battlefield and start walking the ground for yourself and seeing the same things that the Union and Confederate soldiers saw on this three-day battle in 1863. So after the Seminary Ridge and maybe taking a visit to Lee's headquarters, I would recommend hiring a licensed battlefield guide to specifically do a day one tour of the Battle of Gettysburg. This is going to be the set piece of what happens, in the days after that people are more familiar with. And these licensed battlefield guides know an insane amount about this battle and are really going to shorten the learning curve for you. On your first day tour of the Battle of Gettysburg, perhaps you'll start off with your licensed battlefield guide at the first shot marker, where Marcellus Jones of the 8th Illinois Cavalry claims to have been the first man who fired the first shot that kicked off this epic battle. And then maybe you'll move over to Oak Hill and the Peace Light Memorial, and there's a decent chance that you'll end up where I'm standing right now, on Barlow's Knoll, where a division commanded by a man named Francis Barlow in the 11th Corps moved out and slammed right into an onslaught of Confederates coming from the north and the northeast. Now, before coming to Gettysburg, one thing that might be helpful is to spend some time familiarizing yourself with the people who fought here and maybe some of the command structure. So you might start off, real big and simple. That you have Robert E. Lee and the Army of Northern Virginia on one side, and you have George Meade, the Army of the Potomac on the other. And then maybe you can learn a little bit more about the Corps commanders and where they are situated on this three-day battle. So look at like Longstreet and Ewell and A.P. Hill for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Corps of the Confederates. And then maybe start looking at the Army of the Potomac, like Hancock in the 2nd Corps, Sickles in the 3rd Corps, Oliver Otis Howard in the 11th Corps. Find out where they were and what happened with them during this three-day battle. And then you can dial it down even further the more that you learn. Get down to a division level, and then to a brigade level, and then maybe to a regimental level. Maybe you can look up and see if anyone from your state was here and follow their path right here at the Battle of Gettysburg. All right, so we were just out there on Barlow's Knoll, and after you visit Barlow's Knoll, well, you need to come right here. This would be my next stop, to the Adams County Historical Society's Beyond the Battle Museum. This museum is new at the time that I'm filming this, and it is really, really incredible. It fills a niche that a lot of places here in Gettysburg don't fill, kind of telling the story of the battle from a local's perspective. And they have something in here that really immerses you into like what it felt like to be one of the families here in the Battle of Gettysburg. But yeah, this right here would be my next stop on day one. So after you go to the Adams County Historical Society and get an idea of the context under which this battle was fought, I definitely recommend moving into town and start exploring, especially along where I'm at right now on Baltimore Street. The battlefield isn't just, outside of town. The town itself is a battlefield. There was fighting that took place through here on the first day. Confederates occupied buildings in this town during the 3-day battle. There's bullet damage on a lot of these buildings. And when you come into town, my recommendation, 100% of the number one place that you need to go is right here. So again, we are on historic Baltimore Street, and the building that we are looking at right now is the Gettysburg Museum of History. And if you've watched this channel for any amount of time, you know a little bit of what is in here. This museum is absolutely incredible. It not only covers Civil War history, but also presidential history and World War I and World War II. It's probably one of the more phenomenal collections that you will ever see, and in my opinion is like one of the top things to see in Gettysburg. Now, after you are finished at the Gettysburg Museum of History, you can give yourself maybe 1 or 2 hours, depending on how much time you want to spend looking. Well, you can dodge right over here to the Museum of Civil War Images, which has an incredible collection of original Civil War images that you'll definitely enjoy. We've moved just down the road, and in my opinion, this is another must-see in Gettysburg. This is the Shriver House, and if you really want to see what a family endured during the Battle of Gettysburg, this is definitely the place to go. The Confederates built a barricade right across here during the battle, and you can go in and tour this home, see how a family in the 1860s lived, and also get a good look at what it may have looked like after the battle. You can also go up into the attic and see where Confederate sharpshooters were positioned. Just be sure not to get hit by a truck when you're crossing the street to go visit here. Now, after you visit some of the sites in town, I'm going to recommend that you continue your way south to the spot where I am right now on East Cemetery Hill, which, when you're talking about the Battle of Gettysburg, everybody talks about Little Round Top and Culp's Hill. Cemetery Hill is really the keystone to the battle. So right here on East Cemetery Hill, this is the high ground that was so important to both sides during the Battle of Gettysburg. There's going to be some vicious fighting that takes place here on day 2 of the battle, when Confederate brigades under Hayes and Avery are going to be coming up and attacking the Union positions right here. Up here on East Cemetery Hill, you can also see good examples of lunettes, these little earthworks where artillery were positioned. You can also see monuments to 2 of my favorite Corps commanders here at Gettysburg, Winfield Scott Hancock, and off in the distance there, Oliver Otis Howard. So yeah, if I'm visiting Gettysburg for the first time, I'm ending my first day right here at East Cemetery Hill. So now it's day 2 of your visit to Gettysburg. And I realize that if you come to Gettysburg, maybe it's on vacation, or maybe it's on a long weekend, and maybe you want to sleep in, or maybe you want to relax. Don't do it. At least for day 2. I would recommend waking up early and making your first stop this place right here behind me. This is Little Round Top. It's probably one of the more popular places on the battlefield, and because of that, it gets some pretty big crowds, especially later in the day. But if you wake up early and you get out here first thing in the morning, you can watch as the sun is shining over one of the best views of any Civil War battlefield in the country. But anyway, at the time that I'm filming this, Little Round Top is closed for rehabilitation, so I can't go up there. But maybe I'll throw in some footage from past visits. But anyway, yeah, day 2, I'm starting off right here at Little Round Top. After your visit to Little Round Top, again, I'm going to recommend hiring a licensed battlefield guide and doing a day 2 battle tour of the left flank on the Union line here. Here you'll see places like Devil's Den and Rose's Woods and the wheat field and the peach orchard. You'll see where Dan Sickles sent out his 3rd Corps and really caused a big problem on the 2nd day of the battle. But again, having a licensed battlefield guide is really going to help you to navigate this place and make more sense of the battle. I want to make one quick stop to the place that really is my favorite spot on the battlefield, and that is the wheat field. There was some vicious fighting that took place here on the 2nd day of the battle. And the reason I stopped here is I want to show this. This is a flank marker, and these are all over the battlefield, and they can really help to orient you as to where the different regiments were positioned during the battle. So this is the left flank of the 4th Michigan. So you can see where they were during the fight here at the wheat field. And again, just kind of helps you to understand and navigate this battle a little bit better. So after your morning, spending some time on the Union left flank and maybe going out and getting a bite to eat, I would recommend next going out to the World War II American experience out on the Mumsburg Road. This is going to be one of the most incredible collections of military vehicles that you will ever see. Just really something else. It's a few miles outside of town, again on the Mumsburg Road, but definitely worth your time. And after that, well, then you need to come and visit the Union right flank on Culp's Hill. Hey, in my opinion, Culp's Hill is probably one of the more underappreciated spots on the Gettysburg battlefield. It wasn't featured in the book Killer Angels or in the movie Gettysburg, so it doesn't get the attention that the left flank gets. But man, there was more sustained fighting that took place here than any place else on the battlefield. And I'll admit, the first time that I came to Gettysburg, I found Culp's Hill to be jarring because there were just a whole bunch of monuments. But the more time I've spent here and the more I've learned, well, the more I've come to appreciate the monuments like the one to the 78th and 102nd New York Infantry. So these monuments tell a story. They also have a lot of artistic value. One of the things here at Culp's Hill that was really a big deal, and you can kind of see it right here, the remnants of it, were breastworks. So as the Confederates are coming up the hill, well, the Union was defended by these breastworks that you can see depicted in this monument. And with these monuments, there are all kinds of little hidden gems as well, and things to be looking for. Like, for example, you can see the head and paw of a lion in here. So yeah, definitely spend a lot of time looking at and learning about the memorials. When I was first coming to Gettysburg and kind of preparing and trying to learn about this battle, well, I started consuming all kinds of podcasts, and the one that has proven to be exceptionally beneficial to me is put on by this guy right here. This is Matt Callery.
Hi, how you doing?
With Addressing Gettysburg, which is an outstanding podcast and a great resource to help get you prepped for your trip to Gettysburg.
That's very kind of you to say. Well, now that Little Round Top is closed for at least another year or so, I think it's a great opportunity for people to come to Culp's Hill, which had more hours fighting over it than any other part of the battlefield. There's about 12 hours or so of fighting trying to dislodge the Union troops off of Culp's Hill. Whereas Little Round Top, which is the more popular hill, 2 hours maybe, something like that. I can never get a straight answer, but somewhere around there, 2 hours of fighting over Little Round Top. Of course, people want to go to Little Round Top because Joshua Chamberlain and the movie, and we're all, in love with it, and because of the romance of Chamberlain's story and the 20th Maine story, and of course the view is gorgeous. Where on Culp's Hill, there's really no view because of all the trees, but I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here on Culp's Hill that people might enjoy. So if you need to go to a hill when you come to Gettysburg before Little Round Top opens, this is a hill worth visiting.
Here's a memorial to another regiment that I am quite fond of, the 137th New York, who fought here on Culp's Hill. So again, Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain and the 20th Maine, they get all of the attention over on the left flank of the Union line because of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain's writings after the war, and also the books and the movies and everything like that, and the documentaries. But the 137th New York, commanded by David Ireland, did pretty much the exact same thing over here on the left flank. So yeah, much to see over here on Culp's Hill.
A lot of people might be aware that, especially in the 20th century, a lot of our entertainers, actors, singers, were also in the military. Clark Gable, Elvis Presley, a whole bunch of them had served in the armed forces at one point or another. Well, Civil War II. I'm at the marker for Company I of the 60th in New York, and if you notice, here we have First Sergeant James Brown. And he would famously stand up here behind a tree, taunting the Confederates, saying, "Get up, get on up."
All right, so it is your third day on the battlefield here at Gettysburg. And for me, I'm going to start off at the place that might be the most famous spot in all of Gettysburg, or at least one of the most popular. And that is along the Confederate line for the third day of the battle, where the divisions of Pickett, Pettigrew, and Trimble set off across this field to attack the Union line right in the middle. So definitely want to stop and see the North Carolina monument. It's one of my favorite. And then also this one right here at the Virginia monument. And then you have two options. You can either follow the path of the Army of Northern Virginia and walk to the high water mark, or you can just drive there. All right, so you've made your way from the starting off point of Pickett's charge, and now, whether you walk it or drive it, the next place that I would go is right here to the Union line at the high water mark. There are a lot of charges that took place during the Civil War, but none quite as famous as the one that occurred right here on the 3rd of July, 1863. So we're standing where about 7,000 Union soldiers squared off against over 12,000 Confederates that were advancing across the field after the largest artillery barrage in the Western Hemisphere. So anyway, you can come and stand in this very iconic spot. There's all kinds of different memorials and monuments to see. The Pennsylvania Monument being the largest. You can go up there and get like a bird's eye view, so to speak, of the battlefield here. And then, places like the Angle, and you can go and see the copse of trees, and you can see where Alonzo Cushing, where his battery was. So all kinds of things to see here at the high water mark. And once you're done here, well, then I would make my way back into town. After your visit to the high water mark, I'm going to recommend coming back into town and paying a visit to the Jenny Wade house. Jenny Wade was the only civilian who was killed during the Battle of Gettysburg. She was killed on the third day, and you can actually tour this house and see some of the battle damage and see where Jenny Wade was killed in the home of her sister. after your visit to the Jenny Wade house, I'm going to recommend that you just walk up the street and come to this place right here, the Evergreen Cemetery. Here you can see the final resting place of Jenny Wade. You can also see battle-damaged stones here in the cemetery. This is where the Union was positioned during the three-day battle. And then after you come to the Evergreen Cemetery, well, you can walk over to the National Cemetery. Here you can see where Abraham Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address. You can also see where the thousands of Union dead are buried. Very, very moving place to be. Now, after spending a few days here in Gettysburg, and you've had a chance to visit some of the museums and walk the ground and explore some of the stories, well, then I would go to the National Park Visitor Center. Here you can see the Gettysburg Cyclorama, which is an amazing, gargantuan piece of art that is really something to behold. They also have thousands of artifacts there that are tied to Gettysburg in particular and the Civil War in general. But yeah. After that, after 3 days, well, hopefully you have a pretty good grasp of what happened here on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of 1863. And we'll give you kind of a good foundation for your future trips right here to Gettysburg. If you liked what you saw here, YouTube seems to think that you'll like this next video as well. So be sure to click on the link and also be sure to subscribe to catch all of the future content when it comes out.